The Storm is set 2 episodes after Underground and continues to develop the Genii threat. The Atlantis team has more advanced technology, certainly. They have the ancient tech of the city and technology that was learned from the Gould and other civilizations in the Milky Way, not to mention the fact that we were about a half century beyond them before all that happened. But the Genii have a couple advantages of their own. Generations of fear creating a unified and tough society. The experience of having to outwit a superior adversary to ensure their very existence, and the resolve to do whatever was needed to eventually destroy that enemy. They represent a significant threat to the Atlantis forces if they wish to be, which they do after the previous encounter. Of course, the Atlantis team is no slouch at this either, having to protect Earth under similar circumstances and without the benefit of global support, or even global unity for that matter. That means that they have experience dealing with far greater threats than the Genii and have their own experience with facing other humans because of our tendency to fight amongst ourselves. But without any support to call upon, that makes it a pretty tough matchup. Anyway, on with the Storm, where lo and behold, as Shepard and Taylor return from visiting her people's settlement on the mainland, they find a storm. Sorry, should have put a spoiler warning in there. But this storm makes the A Perfect Storm look like a squirrel coughing. Shepard says it's about 20% of the planet's surface, though I'm betting he's probably exaggerating in a moment of shock, since that would mean a storm that has the diameter of Eurasia, assuming this planet's about the same size as Earth, of course.
This planet is basically the same size as Earth.
Yep, I know my sci-fi TV. Earth-sized planet is useful because it means the gravity works right. Earth is mostly ocean, and you know how big our hurricanes can get. Well, the ocean takes up even more of the surface of this planet, so the hurricanes, which are powered by the oceans, of course, travel longer distances and can, in some cases, merge when they meet to form even larger storms. This happens once every 20 to 30 years, but this time things are a bit different. The city doesn't have its shield because that's powered by the ZPM, which they don't actually have. And the city was designed assuming they would have one. I mean, they're so ubiquitous, it would be like us designing a basketball court made with the eventuality that air ceased to exist.
So what you're saying is if Taylor and I hadn't discovered this, we
would be in even bigger trouble.
Someone's bucking for a raise. Saving the city from this is going to require a miracle, so they get on with it. But since they don't have any miracles in mind, Atlantis is going to need a contingency plan. And the best one they've got is Operation Skedaddle. Leave and hope it all just kind of works itself out. So Shepard and Ford pay a visit to the Manarians, the guys that they wound up trading crops with. But their leader doesn't seem too keen on letting the entire population of Atlantis crash on his couch. Especially when all Shepard's offering is, I guess we'd owe you one. Shepard and Ford upped the pressure, stating that they would be of help if there was ever a problem the Manarians had. But they do so in such a way that implied they could come in here and mess with the Manarians royally if they wanted to. So they grudgingly acquiesce, but everyone else figures it's just an overnight visit until McKay has a brilliant plan.
I will try, but despite what you all may think, I am not Superman.
Was anyone seriously thinking that?
Yeah, at most, Hank Pym, if you were lucky. More good news, it seems the leader of the Manarians is in on what's proving to be the worst kept secret in the Pegasus Galaxy, because he pulls out some Genii tech and makes contact with them, asking to get a message to Cowan. And after Ford's veiled threat, he's probably not going to make sure the Genii don't accidentally stumble across his guests. Meanwhile, Rodney and Zelenka finally come up with a plan. A crazy plan, actually.
You want to build a windmill?
Well, not that crazy. Their plan is to use the lightning strikes of the storm to power the shields. I mean, there's got to be at least 1.21 gigawatts in each of those. So all of them together should be enough to keep the shields up so long as the storm is there. And if the storm is gone, well, then we don't need the shields. It's a perfect plan except for the parts of it that are imperfect. First, they're going to have to disconnect the grounding stations to stop the electricity from going into the ocean. And second, the electricity is going to run up the hall, so anyone not in the control room is going to get fried. So aside of getting everyone killed, this plan looks pretty good. I'm thinking that leaving the city with an overnight bag is probably the best option, though. Meanwhile, the Genii are doing some training in the traditional fighting with sticks school of badassery. If you want to become awesome, you have to get beaten with a stick for a while first. One of them is Sora, the daughter of that Genii who bought it back in Underground. She's betrothed, remember, so this could be part of her bachelorette party. Alas, this party is cut short when this young private shows up to inform Kolya, the guy dispensing the beatings, that this room is needed for the Glee Club, so he has to leave. Kolya is not happy with the interruption, and even more so with the idea of using his group of neophytes as a strike force. If the mission to the Wraith ship taught them anything, it was that they needed people who realized that keep things quiet did not mean firing a machine gun. But there's no time to finish the training. Cowan points out that this is a rare opportunity to take what they need from Atlantis while most of them are off-world. If they don't go now, it likely won't happen again, and their atomic weapon will just continue to make all their genitals weep. Atlantis finishes the evacuation. The only ones who don't go through are McKay, Shepard, Dr. Weir, a couple of red shirts, and back on the continent, Taylor, Ford, and Carson, who are waiting for the last of the Athosian hunters to return in order to evacuate them. And speaking of the Athosians, one of them is doing the important job of getting shit-faced with the Manarians, leaving him easy pickings for Kolya to take his transmitter and force him to enter the code that will tell Atlantis to lower the shield for a friendly. That, of course, will be the job of Thing 1 and Thing 2 back in the control room, because the other three will need to disconnect the couplings at the grounding stations. Rodney will have one so that he can have extra time to write the subroutines to make this work. Dr. Weir will have one because she's the boss, and Shepard will have two because he's military and should be used to running long distances to do what someone else tells him to do. Back on the continent, they finally recovered the hunting party, only the storm has already started and Carson's worried about trying to fly back in this weather. He's the only one with the ancient gene on board, so he'll be flying, and he's not terribly comfortable with that stuff at the best of times. Flying through Hurricane Schwarzenegger is just asking for them to wind up at the bottom of the ocean while he screams that adorable Scottish scream of his. By the time Shepard reaches his station, the other two have finished their job and gotten back. But it's not a race, Shepard. A race implies you ever had a chance. Meanwhile, the Genii call into the command center and say they're coming back with wounded, and while one red shirt says they should wait to get the okay from Dr. Weir, the other one is already leaping into action, though I'm not sure he wouldn't have let the Genii in even if they'd said Candygram. Kolya guns them both down, which makes even Sora a bit uneasy, but she goes along with taking Dr. Weir and McKay prisoner. Luckily, the comm unit is still open, so Shepard hears what's going on. So at least he's still free to launch some kind of plan, and so's the team in Jumper 2. Except the hurricane already reached the mainland, so they're not useful for more than moral support, which is really right above no support whatsoever when you get down to it. Looks like Shepard will be doing this situation solo, but you know what, that's fine. You can't do Die Hard with a team. It just doesn't work that way. It'd be like RoboCop the musical.
Hoodlum, don't try to flee. Dead or alive, you are coming with me. Oh, my love, be still your heart, for alas, I lack that part. The RoboCop must depart.
And we're back after that Seth MacFarlane interlude. Kolya demands their C4, medical supplies, the data device, and a jumper, just for starters. But Rodney manages to relay that info to Shepard to get him in the loop. But Kolya sees right through that, and the fact that McKay and Weir are still here. McKay's not used to lying in tense situations, so his feeble attempts to convince Kolya that them being on the city about to be destroyed is perfectly normal, it doesn't quite work. Well, don't worry about that. Kolya brought along some truth serum. Sometimes it does take multiple applications to work. Meanwhile, the groundwork is being laid for the final act of this story as Sora asks about Taylor. She's looking forward to some avenging, and since Taylor's on the planet, that's obviously in the cards here. But first, of course, it's Die Hard 6, Live and Let Die Hard. Except instead of getting an enemy walkie-talkie, Shepard swipes all the C4 and leaves a walkie-talkie for them. Well, that's not bad, but now that Kolya knows about the plan to save Atlantis, he has a much better idea. Let's steal the whole city! It'll be kind of hard to carry back with us, but it'll be worth it. Dr. Weir tries for diplomacy, trying to get Kolya to see that leaving them with Atlantis is ultimately good for the whole galaxy. The Genii won't be able to utilize it to its full capacity in the war.
A war that you expedited.
Poor Dr. Weir. Just look at the mess she's trying to napkin up here. This breach only happened because the Manarians were upset after their negotiations with Shepard. So they brought in the Genii, who are pissed off at the Atlantis team after their work with Shepard, who are especially pissed off because of the Wraith threat, which is so strong because of the actions of Shepard. It seems like her entire job is to clean up the messes that Shepard creates, doesn't it? So Kolya sticks to his new plan. If Shepard wants to get them out of this alive, go to the grounding station and finish the job. Except Kolya just can't keep well enough alone. He has to send some goons in to capture him. Except Shepard anticipated this possibility and had grabbed a life signs detector. So when he discovers he's not alone, he stops, and there's what's known in the business as a disagreement, and the two Genii wind up losing that argument. And even more bad news, McKay had warned Kolya that the terminal was rather fragile, so you probably shouldn't shoot it. Well, funny story, seems the Genii shot it, and that is not covered by your warranty.
You killed 2 of my men.
I guess we're even!
I don't like even.
I do hate games that end in a tie. Kolya's going to shoot Dr. Weir out of spite, and there's nothing Shepard can say to stop him. And cue cliffhanger ending. But not to worry, we're going to pick right up with the companion video, The Eye.
I am in the first one, Rodney!
Oh, sorry. Already done mine.
Oh, great! Good for you!
Me too.